Disclaimer: I have the utmost respect for Ileana Denon and the work that she does with the Galactic Federation of Worlds, her connection to Thorhan. This post is not about Ileana Denon at all. She is not the source that I'm talking about that has been given misinformation by Greys. It's not Ileana Denon. It's a completely different source. This has nothing to do with Ileana Denon. Just to preface the understanding, again, Ileana is a beautiful soul, and I highly respect her. She is doing great work. She is bringing good information about what's happening in terms of taking down the Greys and other things that are happening to clear out the negatives from our world. So I thank Ileana Denon for the beautiful work that she does. This post is not about her at all. It is about a different source and a different individual. So it has nothing to do with Ileana Denon. Thank you. Hi, it's Ileana here. Today I wanted to discuss something that's been on my mind. I recently remote viewed in regards to the tall Greys, the Matre, the Dries, and what impact they have on Earth right now. What's going on with these beings? And what I got back is that young women are being influenced by the hive minds of these Greys, by the queen, the hive mind. Some of these beautiful women are innocent and sweet. It's no fault of their own. What's being fed to them, the false light information, but they're being used in false information being given to them that all the Greys are being taken out, that our servers are being changed, that certain galactic groups are working with certain alliances, so this information and what's happening off-world, these women are being fed false light information that all the Greys are taken out. There's a huge temporal war going on that involves the Greys, the Dracos, the secret space programs. It involves all factions. Dark Fleet. So it involves all those factions. They're in a temporal war. And when I looked at the Greys influencing women telepathically, psychically, they're projecting faces of beautiful extraterrestrial men, Pleiadians, Nordics, these beautiful blonde men or men with beautiful features. They're projecting, the Greys are projecting that onto women's minds with this information that, the light is winning, everything's good, everything's being cleared out. The Greys are projecting that to a certain degree. The Greys are being cleared out. Yes, but some of this information about the secret space program, like lunar space operations being converted, that it's going to give medbed technology with a certain type of an alliance running the show now, and that lunar space operations had once been a Dark Fleet base on the moon. It was never a Dark Fleet base. It was always run by the U.S. Navy. The whole thing got started in the 1950s, building underground bases, experimental bases on the moon, under the lunar surface. That's how it started. Then it expanded to space stations with sort of world-like engines, so you can move the orbits of the space stations around different planets. It's connected to Werner von Braun, and the space station schematics that he had. But again, what I got from the women who are being influenced by the Greys' hive minds is that they see beautiful men with exotic names, and that's really an illusion. It's made of photons, holographic mind insert technologies, and it's giving these women warped information that's not necessarily true. It's hyped, it's overemphasized, so not everything is as it seems on the information being reported from these sources and individuals. So I've looked at individuals, I've looked at how these Greys prey on women. And again, it's disturbing what I found and in the remote viewing data that came out of this. And I looked at a certain individual whose name I will not mention for their own protection. I'm not here to call out anybody. I'm just saying we need to be careful in what we're listening to, the information and how it's being processed, because there's more going on behind the scenes than what it seems on the surface, what's being reported. Again, the information that one source has been reporting about the secret space programs, that's not accurate. It's not true. I was in the secret space programs. I had been on lunar space operations. It was always a U.S. Navy run base from its inception. It has 32 levels of advanced technology. It's not an old 1950s base that's being retrograded. It's an advanced base. It has 32 levels with anything you'd want for living, for operations. It has advanced technologies. It has regeneration tanks, and it has some med beds in it, but it's not a huge facility for regenerative technologies. Those are the Mars bases run by planetary corporations. They have the monopoly on holographic medical pods. So the Alliance is not working with lunar space operations to bring that technology to us anytime soon. That hasn't changed. And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just telling the truth of what I'm seeing in the remote viewing. So that information is not accurate, what's being said by the source. The information being given to that source by the Greys masquerading as beautiful men with intel to these women. So I'm just saying what I honestly see. And several years ago, I had read books by Ileana Dean, Voyager series 1 and 2. And Ileana Dean talked about the tall Greys and other types of Greys that have hive minds, that they would try to infiltrate human beings, young women in particular, and the media and everything, all of our technologies with their codes of mind control codes, that this would be done over the span of 10 years. And to be careful, as the Greys have a plan to take us over a 10-year period. Ileana Dean's books were published in 2001 and 2002. So it's close to that 10-year mark, maybe even longer now. So in this agenda of the tall Greys is now coming up, that they've infiltrated our social media, computers, technologies with their signaling codes, and that they have also infiltrated our minds with telepathic communication and signals, masquerading as benevolent alliances and benevolent galactic federations. I'm not saying that this is being done to all sources who talk about the Galactic Federation of Worlds, but it is being done to some sources. this is happening to. So we need to be very careful about the information that we're listening to. Yes, hundreds of the dumb spaces have been cleared out of reptilians and greys, and a lot of the abductees and people who were found in these bases were healed by positive benevolent beings and federations. Yes, that has happened to a certain degree. There's still a lot of dumbs that haven't been cleared out. There's thousands of them that were on this planet, on Earth, underground, different countries. It's not just in North America. It's not just in Canada, United States. Dumbs exist everywhere on this planet, and there was thousands of them, and hundreds have been cleared, and I had done a remote viewing on that, and I saw that. So good things are being done to help the world by positive, benevolent ETs, that's for sure. But there's also beings from the negative side, ETs masquerading as the good guys in telepathic communications, messages, intel coming through. So I'm not saying that I'm discouraging the source, because this is an innocent person to whom this is being done. And they're beautiful young women to who this is being done. So it's not their fault. They haven't done anything. They're not bad people. They're very good, loving people, actually, whose mind has been controlled by these dark grays, tall grays, and reptilians can sometimes do this too to people. I've been abducted by reptilians from the age of 2 to 10. Some of them can be very brutal, but there's also loving, healing reptilian species that are kind and compassionate, and they don't abduct human beings. With extraterrestrials, there's positives, there's negatives, there's something in between as well. So they're not all good or bad. I am connected to a reptilian insectoid hybrid named Zagor, who was actually part of Dark Fleet at one point. Then he deviated from Dark Fleet, removed himself, and he's no longer, the middle point dark being that he used to be at one point when I first knew him, when I was serving in the Secret Space Program, Planetary Corp, and Dark Fleet. I was in Dark Fleet. I was in Nachtwaffenregier. That's where I met Zagor. I met him on Mars as well. And he had some dark energy around him because he was being controlled by the Dracos in Dark Fleet. And he was mistrustful of humans. So it took us a while to build a rapport and get along. And because he was assigned to me as a Dark Fleet delegate from them, from the Draco side of it, to the Nachtwaffen side to work with the human personnel. He was supposed to guide me, and he did. He personally never did anything horrible to me. Never. I haven't been abused by him. He's always been decent to me. And since he's been liberated out of Dark Fleet, he's become a nicer being. His energy is much more pure. So I've had experiences dealing with different types of hybrids. Some ETs have been more pleasant to me, some not so much. I've seen the good and the bad. I don't judge, not my place. But going back to Ashiana Dean's information, she met advanced beings called the Guardians, avian types and other types, and she wrote 2 beautiful books, and she explained the gray agenda in quite detailed information. Her mind is very scientific. She gives a lot of information that's very scientific based, that's very very logical and advanced from what I read in the books. And she actually writes in a language that some find easy to read and some find hard to read. Every person takes it in differently, but I understood what she was writing. So she was warning us about the Greys' agenda a long time ago in the early 2000s. And she had talked about how they can holographically control people's minds through interdimensional interferences outside the physical world. It happens interdimensionally and through time travel as well. So she was talking about their infiltration, how they can control people's minds and create false impressions and can give us false messages by masquerading as positive, benevolent ETs to give warped, distorted messages. And that's what's happening to some people right now in what I'm seeing and hearing. And people constantly ask me, what do I think of all of this, of the sources, the information? And this is what I honestly know and think and have remote viewed, and also known from Ileana Dean's material. And I had talked to a person who interviewed me several years ago, and that person had also read Ileana Dean's books, and we discussed the 10-year agenda. That person had actually introduced me to Ileana Dean's books, the Voyager series. So that person taught me a lot about what the Grey agenda is and got me curious. And Ileana Dean's books also talk about reptilians and how the reptilians co-opted many Grey species as well and distorted them and took them to the AI systems. So taking out the organics from the Greys, the reptilians themselves connect to the AI quite a bit, some of them, the Dracos. So they're not purely organic anymore. So this is all the information that is in Ileana Dean's books. So I highly recommend her Voyager series. And I recommend we all use discernment in what we're listening to, what we're reading, what we're hearing, whether it's written information, whether it's videos, talks, interviews. Just use your intuitive abilities and discernment to figure out what's the truth, what's the manipulation, what's disinformation, because there's a lot of it going on right now. And again, I'm not judging anybody. I am just saying what I've been seeing through doing some remote viewing around these things, because I've been asked a lot about it. And this is all I'll say. Just be careful, use your discernment, and try to figure out what's the truth and what's not. So thank you so much, and namaste.